Thanks to those joining me live and to those that'll be joining me, Stormy B-Man and Mr. Boxing Today, live and on archive. What's going on, gentlemen? What's going on, Stormy?
Hey, man, what's going on, D-Style? Salute to you, man. Thanks for having me, bro. Salute Mr. Boxing as well.
Absolutely, man. Thank you both for being here. How's it going, Mr. Boxing Today? How's it going, bro? Good to have you on.
Man, finally back on your platform. It's been a long time. Me and D-Style go way back, way back. 10 years, man. 10 damn years, D-Style. Happy to be here, man.
Absolutely. You guys are tuning in to the February 24th edition of Aftermath. And, of course, as I'm doing it, sun got in my eye. I don't know what the fuck that was. But with that said, I'm being joined by Stormy B-Man and Mr. Boxing Today, too. Make sure you guys throw a jab at the like button. If you're listening on archive right now, okay, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure the like button turns blue. All right? I'm going to start off with the following. Emmanuel Navarrete breaks down and stops Santissima in 11 rounds. I'll be honest, the fight went a lot longer than I expected. I thought Emmanuel Navarrete, who's a king at 122 pounds, okay, super bantamweight, in my opinion, not undisputed, so it's not confirmed. But, he goes in there, breaks down this opponent who's ranked like 63rd in the world or something. This dude was tough, bro. I mean, he took a beating. I'll be honest, though, after like the 4th or 5th round, it just became wash, rinse, repeat. It just looked like the same round over and over again, like a broken record. I guess that happens when the guy you're facing is making no adjustments and what you're doing is working. Nothing's going to change up until the 11th round where he gets that stoppage. Stormy, how'd you see that fight, man?
It was an interesting fight. I'm having a hard time pronouncing that kid's name. It's Santissini or something. What is his name?
You got it.
That's it?
Santissima,
yeah, Sima. Yeah, I watched the fight in its entirety, and believe it or not, I saw this weekend's event at the theater. So I saw it on the big screen. I took my clipboard with my fight card with me, so I was sitting in the theater scoring the fights. I thought that he pretty much lost every round, the opponent, but I gave him one round. It was the 4th, I think, and that was the round where I think he threw the most punches, but he looked like he was trying to survive. I noticed something personal about him, that he actually had more pop on his punches than Navarrete had, but maybe he was stage struck or something, and he just couldn't let his hands go. And as Navarrete has been known to do, he throws a high volume of punches per round. So once he realized that kid could pop, he kept him busy with his hands at home. So it was an easy thing for him. But I did also notice that he hurt his right hand in one of the middle rounds. He was shaking it a bit, and but he was never in danger of losing the fight. But he did take a pretty good counter punch. I think it was in round 4. That's the round that I gave Santissima. He was in an exchange, and he caught a shot high on the head, and he went back into the ropes. Navarrete did. And had the ropes not been there, had they been in like the center of the ring, I think he could have hit the canvas, because the guy was very strong. And for some reason, as I was watching him during the match, I was having thoughts of like the recent, Mexican greats like Juan Manuel Marquez, Eric Morales, and Marco Antonio Barrera, because he knows how to fight. It's like whoever is going to be that major challenge for him is going to have to be equal in skills, because he knows everything: the jab, the right hand, the left hook, uppercut, but also counter punching, taking the offensive and moving around. He's a complete fighter, and he's exciting. He's a up in your face type fighter, but not recklessly. you know, he has some skills and he knows how to fight. I like watching him. When he first beat Dog Bay in that first fight they had, it surprised me because I hadn't heard of him, you know. And I could see as he took Dog Bay apart, it was not by chance or something like that. This young man is the goods. I like Navarrete.
Absolutely. And I want to follow up with this. We have another Mexican champion, Ray Vargas, in the same division. Okay. And I think that's too many Mexicans with a world championship in the same fucking division, especially in divisions separated by like 4 or 5 pounds. So it's time for these guys to fight. And it's time for, you know, I want to see Navarrete. I mean, he's active and all that. That's all good. I support him 100%, but it's time to get in the ring with Ray Vargas. What do you think of that matchup, Stormy?
I think it's just the type of matchup that will please the crowd. That is a fight fan's fight. Vargas is a tough individual himself, but I'll tell you something. Every time that I've watched Navarrete, there are points in the fights with him where he steps it up. And if the guy competes, he steps it up. He has a third and fourth gear. I love that. So you're going to either have to be a guy with a huge bombing shot to get him out of there, one punch type KO power. Otherwise, he may be able to break you down with his activity and the way he goes about his workmanship. But I think that's a great fight.
Absolutely, man. AJ10 is on here. What's going on, AJ10? The residential fact checker of the show. All right. Shout out to everyone on the panel. He says, T. Scott, what's good? Haplotype, what's going on? Of course, Storm V-Man doing double duty. Look at this in the chat and in the video and everything. Mr. Tiptoe, salute. What's going on, bro? AMG2 hashtag bomb squad. It says salute. T. Scott, I'm riding with Wilder. Just don't like the excuses. We're definitely going to talk about that. Stay tuned. We're definitely going to get to that fight for sure as the main topic, obviously, of the night. Dennis Wards, how's it going? Nassim the Dream, how's it going to you? And I got to admit, Stormy, I'm not even sure if that's how you pronounce it. I just said, yeah. But BNB says, salute, D-Style Boxing. I'm being joined by Mr. Boxing today, too, and Stormy. All right. AJ10 says he watched it at the movie theater as well. We have Joe Lopez 40 ounce on here. Underground Asylum. And he's saying he jabbed the like button. Have you? If you're watching right now, have you? Is that like button? Did it turn blue? Make sure you check it. All right. We'll move on from there, man. I just think that's a fight that people need to pay attention to. You heard it here on this show. Ray Vargas, Navarrete. Keep an eye out for that. Mr. Boxing Today, too. We're going to transition to heavyweight boxing here. Charles Martin knocked out Washington in the 6th round. How'd you see that fight, bro?
Man, well, interesting about that fight that both of these guys, they've sparred plenty of rounds with each other, so they're very familiar with each other. First of all, at the All-American Heavyweight Camp that happened years and years ago, they had out there in Carson, California, where they brought a lot of over 6'3", over 220-pound athletes to this facility and trained them. And they were two of those guys in that camp. So they sparred with each other a lot during then and during just over the last few years out there in California. So familiar with each other. So when I first heard the fight was being made, I'm like, man, I hope they're not too friendly, because I've seen these guys interview with each other and they're very friendly. But they were not friendly on fight night. Now, at the end of the first round, or towards the end, that was a telltale sign, because you had a lefty versus a righty. We all know what that is. Who can land? The lefty wants to get his left hand there first. The righty wants to get his right hand there first. So they started to mix it up. Gerald landed his right hand flush on Charles. Charles didn't go nowhere. Charles started landing his left hand. He started to back Gerald up. Then I'm watching the fight. I watched it a few times. Gerald is actually circling right into Charles Martin's left hand. I mean, getting dinged. And then the next thing he reverted to, he backed up in a straight line. So it's like, okay, so your game plan is to walk to the left hand or back up in a straight line. The total wrong thing for Gerald to do. Sometimes Gerald can get, and I think this is just due to his inexperience and not having that wealth of amateur experience and all that type of thing, where he's like a deer in headlights sometimes. Once he gets stunned and pop, he'll back up in a straight line, he'll try to hold, and that's what he was trying to do. But Charles, I think Manny Robles is doing a very good job with Charles Martin, man. He's throwing his combinations more fluid, a little bit better. His mid-range combinations are getting home better. He was reaching a little bit. There was some rounds throughout in the middle of the fight where it was kind of really not much happening. And I was thinking to myself, like, why don't Charles just step it up? Every time he hits Gerald with something, he's hurting him, he's backing him up, he's making him wince. He's doing a lot of things, and it seems as if they're kind of both playing it safe, kind of like you stay here, I stay here, and we kind of just fence with each other. But then once Charles just turned it up and started to throw consecutive combinations one after each other and pressure Gerald, he got him up out of there, hit him with a good left hand. But it wasn't the first left hand flush that landed on Gerald to make him quit, so I will give him that. And he was landing some good right hands too, man. Just he couldn't hurt Charles, man. Martin just took the dog out of him, man. As far as what I think what's going to happen next, now this was an IBF elimination fight, so I'm curious to see what the IBF does with Charles Martin and who they have him fight next. I was looking at the rankings. Gerald was number 9 going into this fight by the IBF, and Martin was number 11. So kind of low-ranked guys fighting elimination bouts. So I'm pretty sure this is not the final eliminator. Looking at guys rated ahead of him: 8 Herkovic, 9 or 7 Hunter, 6 Usyk, 5 Ruiz, 4 Caballel, 3 Konaki. Number 2 is not rated, and Pulev is the mandatory for the IBF. So curious to see who they put Martin in there with. You got Parker, number 12. I don't think he'll fight anybody but below him. As far as Gerald, though, man, I'm thinking, bro, that he is downgraded now to gatekeeper status. He's had his title shot against Wilder. He's got stopped by Miller and Wilder. Martin now, Konaki. He had the decision against Amir Mansour. I thought Mansour won that fight. Now, he has beaten Helenius and John Wesley No Fire and guys like that. But, yeah, man, I'm thinking he's going to be a stepping stone type fight for Junior 5, Jermaine Franklin, F.A. Ajagba, Oscar Rivas, Herkovic, Yoka, one of those type of guys. Man, I think they're going to put him there now. You know what I mean? But as far as Charles Martin, I'm like what I'm seeing. He had the loss to AJ. He went through some stuff where he was kind of wilding out, man. Like, I don't know if you guys remember the stuff I was putting up of him off Instagram, but he was kind of like wilding out. Then he suffered a gunshot wound downtown LA, but he's shown focus. He's speaking of the Kronk that we're going to talk about later. He's had some time with Sugar Hill. He spent a lot of time in the Kronk over the few years and working with Manny Robles. His mind seems to be in the right place. His weight, he comes in between 245, 254, somewhere in there. So his weight was on par with his most recent fights. He's never going to be Mr. Olympia, you know what I mean? So I'm not looking for him to have a 6-pack. But he did what he had to do. The Konaki fight, I thought he barely lost that fight 6 rounds to 4, turned it up late, handled the pressure. And then he had this victory right here, man. So just waiting to see what they do with Charles Martin next with this IBF situation.
Shout out to Best Fight the Best. He says this is dope. The heavyweight boxing God is on here. There you go. We have Mr. Boxing Today on. This is the February 24th edition of Aftermath. Make sure you jab the like button. Stay tuned. We're going to get to that Wilder Fury fight. So get your popcorn ready. Stormy B, man. Just to add a caveat to all this, I saw a lot of complaining, mainly on Twitter, about this fight. A lot of people saying, oh, why this fight? And what a boring fight. And the fans deserve better. I don't know what the big deal was. I enjoyed the fight. But, how did you personally see this fight? And what do you think should be next for the winner, for Prince Charles Martin?
Well, anytime we get to see the big guys mix it up, I'm always happy for that, because I think heavyweight boxing is highly entertaining. And we have some guys milling about in the division. You can basically go maybe from whoever number 2 is in the world all the way down to at least 25. There are guys that should be fighting each other that are not. And this was another one of those fights, more so for what's going on with Gerald Washington than Prince Charles Martin, because Washington, he presents a huge presence in there. He's a big man. He's strong, but his boxing background is very limited. But it doesn't mean that he won't be capable of getting some things done against certain people. And this was one of those fights, because when we saw Martin, when he had acquired the title, he won it in a fashion where it wasn't like he really beat a guy down and everything. And then he went in and he basically auctioned his belt off to Anthony Joshua. And the performance that he gave against Joshua was very lackluster. And he could be kind of downgraded as what you might think about him as a talent. But as Mr. Boxing Today has indicated, with the time that he has spent with Sugar Hill and even now Manny Robles, you could see that he's turned a corner in the sport, and he has risen up to a level that he wasn't at when he had the belt. And he's had that fight with Kaunaki, which was a rough and tumble fight that a fighter should have, because it gives you an idea of what he may have on the inside. And he showed in the Kaunaki fight that he had just got going a little bit late in that fight. And had he picked up that pace that he finished off with, maybe a round or two earlier, he could have got that decision. But he's now setting down on his punches, as was indicated in this fight. He's now using a little bit of ring smarts, because as Mr. Boxing Today indicated as well, these guys were very familiar with one another. And the first couple of rounds, I'll say like the first 3 or 4 rounds, they were kind of looking at each other and everything. And you could tell that experience of being familiar was present. And then it's like a switch went off with Martin, or maybe they told him in the corner, Manny, because they did have Manny talking to him there, but we couldn't hear like all the time of what was being said in the corners because the miking was just atrocious. But it's like a switch went off and he began to step into that position to counter with his shots, and he was setting down on his punches. That left that he knocked Martin out with, Gerald Washington out with, it was a big shot. And I didn't know he had that type of power. I know he's a big guy. He was 6'5" and 200, almost 260 pounds. But it was the way he did it with skill. He slipped and countered, and it was solid. It was on the money. And you could see him, before it went down, he was setting it up. I love that. He didn't have that when he fought AJ. And I was like, man, had he hit AJ with that left, like he hit Gerald Washington, he would have got the same result, because AJ is not so adept at taking shots flush, but this was a pinpoint accurate shot. And I think Mr. Boxing Today would agree that the Charles Martin that fought Saturday night is leaps and bounds better than the one that showed up against AJ.
Yeah, I definitely agree, man. He was timid against AJ, man. It's like he was so timid and so like it was almost like stage fright, damn near.
Yeah,
I mean, it was great. It was just great to see him with this type of performance, because I have to say I want to see him again. And I saw the Kaunaki fight, and I thought that was a fight between two guys who were trying to battle for a position. But he learned something from that loss. And you can tell by the way he performed Saturday night. Sometimes a guy can have that type of loss like he had with Kaunaki and don't get better. He'll just come out and be the same guy. This was not that guy that fought Kaunaki.
Absolutely. Now, as far as AJ 10 says, Charles Martin versus Andy Ruiz, and Boxing Historian believes that Martin can beat Ruiz. I have to be honest. Look, while I understand that Martin has improved, I don't think he can beat Ruiz, but that's my opinion. I don't think he can beat AJ, even if he improves even more than he has now. But that's just my opinion. But Mr. Boxing Today, what do you think of like that type of matchup, Ruiz Martin? Do you think that's a winnable fight for Charles Martin?
Yes, I do. And one of the key factors is the reason to that is because Ruiz spent some time with Manny Robles. Not a whole bunch of years, but just enough time to where now there's 2 training camps. A good one that they had going into the Dimitrenko fight, the AJ fight, and then a horrible one that they had. So I think that he would know some of the pros and cons about Andy Ruiz's style, his makeup, what ticks him. But with that said, though, I think that Martin can fight a long range fight, try to catch Ruiz coming on the way in, try to find a home for that left hand. But one thing that Konaki showed against Charles Martin is Charles Martin will fight an inside fight with you. I'm not sure that's what he wants to do with Andy Ruiz, though, man, because Ruiz, even though we have that bad taste in our mouth from the AJ rematch, it wasn't like AJ was trying to fight an inside fight with him either, though. You know what I mean? So if Charles Martin, like he did with Konaki, tries to fight that type of fight with Andy, man, I see Andy beating him fighting like that. But Andy is used to fighting guys with long reaches, and Charles Martin's not the most active guy. He's not the most active guy, and it's not like he's trying to win rounds strictly off jabs. He does have moments in his fights where, kind of like with Gerald, he kind of just sits there and watches. And even the fight he had with Daniel Marks made Charles Martin work a little bit. You know what I mean? So, and a lot of that was based on Marks just throwing caution to the wind and just throwing punches. And we know that Andy loves to throw punches, man. I would favor Andy in a fight like that, but I think Martin has the skill set. I think he has the skills to beat him. Can he put it all together? I'm not sure. But I think it'd be a good matchup, but I'll favor Andy in that fight.
Look at this. G-Funk comes out and says, Ruiz puts him to sleep. Bounce conversation. Reggie Owen says, great point. I'm not sure exactly with who, but it looks like some people are picking AJ 10 says Martin. Who do you see winning that potential matchup if, let's say, it were to happen? Stormby, man.
Wow, it's interesting. But I will say this. I go with Martin 100%. And I understand the strengths that Andy Ruiz has, but a good big man can beat a good little man. And in that match, Ruiz is the little man. And when I say little, I'm not talking about their weights because they're both heavyweights, but his height and reach. I believe that Martin could actually do damage from a standpoint of watching him, how he handled Washington. He could get himself in position to get certain shots off. And he's had a tough fighting in close, inside fighting with Kaunaki already. So that experience that he had from that, and now knocking out this guy, he's on an upward trajectory. That's why I said a moment ago that I look forward to seeing him again, because don't think for one moment Manny Robles won't tell him about what the weaknesses in Ruiz are, and whatever they are. We could speculate whether it's mental, whether it's physical, it's psychological, whatever. He's going to give Charles that information and tell him how to exercise and use it to his optimum against Ruiz. And if we saw that, how he performed against AJ in the rematch after knocking him out in the first fight, how he really didn't do anything to try to set up a second knockout. He didn't go after AJ's body, this, that, and the other. And I believe that Martin is just a little bit more courageous than AJ is. Okay. And it's definitely a good fight in the division. You got a former champion fighting a former champion, believe it or not. And these guys will have something to prove. He can be like, hey, I was a better champ than you, or I am a better future champ than you will be, or whatever. So it has some fire there, you know, and this is what we're talking about. Until these guys start shaking it out in the ring, we could talk about what it would be on paper all day long. But we're starting to see, as these fights get made and they take place, oh, I didn't see that coming. So it's like, why not? But I do go with Martin.
Kelly Nigma says, if Ruiz is motivated to train, he wins. If not, it's 50-50. Underground Asylum does not believe Martin has the power. He can hurt Ruiz. I'm assuming he means doesn't have the power to hurt him. It is heavyweights. Anybody can get hurt. But, I mean, I get what you're saying. I don't know, man. I saw Ruiz absorb some monster shots from AJ. And I do tend to agree with that. It's unlikely he will wobble or hurt Ruiz, and I think Ruiz will get to him. But it is an interesting fight. The battle of the champions that couldn't defend one time. You know what I mean? So why not? But how do we motivate Andy Ruiz? Is Kelly, that's his problem. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not here to tell people how to motivate Andy, a grown ass man, but throw a snicker at him. I don't know. All right, Mr. Box, today you have anything else you wanted to add about Charles Martin, or any other potential matchups for him?
I'm really, man, I just want to see what he does with this IBF. Once, sanctioning bodies start getting these title elimination fights going, I like them. They just need to be consistent, because sometimes they'll make an elimination bout, then another one won't happen, another one won't happen. The next thing you know, that elimination bout that shouldn't be the final eliminator ends up being the final eliminator. So just looking at the IBF rankings, man, I would just love to see him in there with pretty much anybody that's in that top 10, man. Ruiz is one, I won't mind seeing him fight Ruiz. And back to that with the Ruiz thing, if he is to fight Ruiz, that does happen, man. Martin will have to start a little bit earlier, because in the Konaki fight, the reason I was giving Adam a bunch of those early, the first 6 rounds, because I thought Martin won the last 4 rounds, which showed that he can stand up down the stretch. That's what impressed me most about his fight with Konaki, is he took it to Adam, and Adam's the pressure guy, right? So just start off a little bit earlier. And again, if he can use his jab and move around a little bit, maybe he starts to put that thought of doubt in Andy's head, like, hey, remember this? Remember somebody moving on you, sticking you with a jab, moving a little bit. I'm not sure Charles Martin would be that committed to wanting to move around like that, because he does want to sit down and land his left hand. Now, he did have a fight back early in his career that he fought against Joey DeWeco, another shorter guy with very quick hands, who's going to fight next month on Konaki's undercard, by the way. Joey DeWeco, I know he's not at this, huge name in the heavyweight division, but that dude at the national level, man, he won like 14 national championships. All right. He has very quick hands. He's kind of built like a tank. And they say that he gave AJ problems in training camp. All right. But I seen that fight, and Martin dominated him. He was darting in and out. I do think Joey was letting him get away with some things I'm not sure Andy would, but he was kind of in and out in that fight, and he was turning them, using his jab. He was placing the left hands with uppercuts, hooks. He was throwing different variations of his left hand. So maybe he can add some of that. I'm just not sure Andy's going to allow you just to dart in and out after tagging him, because usually Andy, once you throw once, the dude he's trained. He has like the muscle memory to fire quickly, and that's what was giving AJ problems when he fought him the first time. I think Andy would do a lot of that, man. Soon as Martin tried to throw a punch or dart in and out or use a jab, Andy's going to fire quickly. And I don't think Martin has like excellent movement, but he moves just enough to get out the way, though. And he has a tendency sometimes to brush his back up against the ropes. And I think Andy can probably bust him up on the ropes as well. But I would love to see the fight. Just like Stormy said, man, we can talk all day, but I would love to see that fight. But I'm still leaning towards Andy Ruiz.
Yeah, you brought up some great points there. Make sure you guys throw a jab at the like button, by the way. I'm being joined by Mr. Boxing today and Stormy B-Man. This is the February 24th edition of Weekend Aftermath. We'll be talking really soon here about Fury defeating Wilder by 7th round TKO. We will definitely get there. You guys are a trip, man, okay? Haplotype says Ruiz has a chin, and Miguel Mondragon follows up by saying he has a double chin. Maybe that's why he could take a punch so well. I don't know. But with that said, Stormy B-Man, you have any final thoughts in regards to Prince Charles Martin?
Yeah, I'd just like to say this about these guys in the heavyweight division and in boxing in general. You never know how good you can be until you test yourself. And you start getting in there with someone who's supposed to be either on your level or someone who could be, as Cali Enigma mentioned in the chat, he said a 50-50 fight with you. When you're fighting 50-50 fighters and you defeat them, you gain confidence. You gain the experience of overcoming. And that's what sets you on the path to be something worth tuning into. Just bowling over a bunch of guys that are in there to dance with you on the night and your favorite to beat, that's not going to take you anywhere with your career. But when you start having these fights and close matches, and you just won by a split decision, or they beat you by a split decision or a round or two or something like that, it gives you confidence that you belong, and you can build upon that. When we start to see these young fighters take these type of matches, we will see who could be the next champion. You understand? But it has to take place. You can't talk about on paper. It has to happen in the ring. That's why the fight that's coming up between Dubois and Joe Joyce is so significant, because everyone is anointing Dubois. But what's going to happen if he wins against Dubois, meaning Joyce? Then it's going to be like, uh-oh. And then does it become a thing of, is Joyce better than we thought? Because everyone thinks they see a blue chipper in Dubois. But I've seen the tables turn in fights like that. I just want to see the fight, because they're at that level where they should be facing one another. And same with Martin. Maybe one of these other guys will graduate to a level where they could fight him, Effie Ajabo or one of these guys. But we want to see the matches. Please, people, stop saying things like, oh, well, he'll whoop him. It's no need for him to face him because that guy, no, let's see the fights. We saw a fight this past weekend with a result none of us saw coming. You understand? So this is why it should take place. That's what I have to offer on that.
Well said, Stormy B-Man. To the left of me is the schedule. Every Monday is Aftermath. Okay, usually 10 p.m. Eastern time. We had a special start time today. Tomorrow we'll have Ashy Knuckles for a puncher's chance. Make sure you guys tune in tomorrow for that to get his take on last weekend's fights and the upcoming fight with Garcia Vargas as well. Wednesdays, Hispanics Causing Panic with G-Funk. Do not miss that. And, of course, Boxing Conversations with Richie Owens on Thursdays. Catch him live, catch him archive, and jab the like button. All right. Curtis Anderson on here says, panel and chat, salute, brothers. What's going on to Kurt Sugar? Teresa D says, salute, chat. All right. Cali Enigma says, if it's in LA, I'd go to that fight. He's referring to Ruiz Martin. By the way, what a storyline with Robles involved in that. I mean, I would love to see, I want to see the fight now. You know what I mean? I actually want to see this fight happen. All right. And let's go ahead and move to the big topic of the night here. Tyson Fury stops Deontay Wilder in the 7th round. There's a lot of things we're going to talk about here, but man, Mr. Boxing Today, apparently there's an issue with the entrance of Wilder. Okay, first of all, give me what he thought of the entrance, the costume, and all that, and then talk to us about Wilder saying that costume was a little too heavy and maybe paid the price for it.
Well, first of all, let me say this, man. His ring interests in these costumes, I love them. I was at the Fury weigh-in for the first fight. I know he had I think it was like a black mask on. I remember that. I love that. He's came a long way from that little bronze little thing he used to wear that covered like barely his eyes and his nose, whatever. He's came a long way from that, man. But the costume to the Brazil fight, the Ortiz rematch, and then this fight that happened on Saturday, I love it. Very entertaining. I love those costumes. And by the way, I think the white and gold one he wore for the Ortiz rematch is probably the one I like the most, man. But he's coming to the ring looking like something off the Game of Thrones or the Avengers or Transformers. I like it. Now, with the excuses, you guys know how I am with excuses, man. Well, if you don't, I'm not really into them. And I understand, especially when you're undefeated, you're trying to look for something. It was my costume. It was something I ate. I mean, it was my left glove. It was my the sole inside my shoe was poking, and it was giving me problem with the heel of my foot. It's something. They'll find something because he's in denial. Especially when you're a KO artist, you're usually you're used to knocking people out cold and putting them on memes. I think Wilder's just searching for something. Now he did say now that's my opinion. Now he said that it was 40 pounds. Okay, if that is the case, yes, walking with something that's 40 pounds on you, I'm not sure how long he had the costume on in the dressing room. I'm sure he didn't just throw it on real quick in 30 seconds. So I'm sure he had it on for some minutes. I'm not sure how long. And I also noticed, and we brought this up, my man Stormy brought this up. He was pacing back and forth in the locker room. Pretty much, I watched the telecast. I ordered the ESPN, and literally, man, he was getting like dressed and ready. And I know everybody's different, but he was like pacing. It seemed like for like an hour. Or maybe more than it was just like every time they cut the camera to Wilder, he's pacing. And I'm like, all right, maybe this is just his way of doing it. And then I'm trying to think back to other fights where he's done that. And I'm like, it's hard to think right now. I really couldn't remember him, them cutting the camera to the dressing room before he got in the ring and him pacing back and forth for, it seemed as if for like a couple hours, man. But I'm not buying it. I'm not with the excuses, man. I'm not with, I'm just not with it, man. Now, if that's what he thinks, if he really believes that, and hey, if that's really what he thinks and he believes it, then maybe he needs that. So next time, don't come in the ring with a 40-pound costume. You know what I mean? To me, man, it had a lot more to do with Tyson Fury than it did a costume or some type of costume weighing more than 40 pounds or whatever the case, man. I just think it had a lot to do with Tyson Fury.
Yeah, a shout out to Cali Enigma. It says, salute to my brother D-Style. Joe Joyce is older than Deontay Wilder. I'm rolling with Daniel Dubois because he's a descendant of a slave. He's definitely supporting him. Let me tell you, man, I'm rolling with Daniel Dubois in that fight as well. If we have time in the end, we can definitely talk about that fight, by the way. But Stormy, what you think about the well, actually, before I get to you really quick, Mr. Boxing Today, what you think of Tyson Fury's entrance?
A showman. He came into a song. I didn't know what the hell that song was. Then my wife was telling me, what's that lady's name? Patsy Cline or something. My wife was like, why is he coming out to Patsy Cline? I'm like, Patsy who? So I never heard the song before. But I heard the song was called Crazy. And that's what Tyson Fury is. He's crazy, man. He has this confidence where it's almost borderline like, man, are you crazy? But I think he knew him saying the style he was going to fight Wilder in was crazy. So him coming to that song was just, it kind of just went hand in hand. But we've seen this before. I think it was Floyd Mayweather that came. I don't know if it was the Baltimore fight or was it the Gotti fight? Or was it both fights where Floyd kind of came in being carried on the throne or whatever it is? I liked it. He came in as the Gypsy King, came in with the crown, sitting on the throne. I liked it. Look, it was great, man. This was great. Like, this is what we've been asking for, especially us English-speaking heavyweight fans. We went those 10, 12 years. We couldn't pronounce the guys that Klitschko was fighting. That was always the excuse, but I thought was stupid. But this was great. And speaking of the Klitschkos, they had some awesome ring entrances as well out there in Germany. But this was awesome, man. And Tyson Fury took his time. It took him a minute to get down to the ring. He was soaking it all in. He was singing. He was just relaxed. It was just a great night all in all for Tyson Fury, man. But I liked his entrance to the ring as well. And hey, one more thing with Wilder. I like the fact that he came in. What was the guy's name? D Smoke. I like the song that he came in. Black Habits. I loved it. The whole tribute to Black History Month. They had the screen when he was coming out, the little monitors where they showed Maya Angelou and Harriet Tubman and Nipsey Hussle and Malcolm X. I know that ruffled a lot of people's feathers and they didn't like it and they felt uncomfortable. So what? Deal with it. You know what I mean? So, but I like both of them, man. I thought they both did their thing.
So that was the Baltimore fight. We got a fact checker on here. You know what I mean? So it was a Baltimore fight where Floyd did that entrance.
Okay. So. Did he do it for Gotti or I know he came into another one bites the dust. I'm just not. Did he get carried in though? I'm not sure.
I don't remember. AJ Tennis to get a fact check on it because I'm actually curious about that. Actually, what's going on to Boxing Spreadsheet, aka Blood Boxing? He says she's an old time country singer. Them old timers love her down there in the South. Right? That's right. Okay. He's saying shout out to everybody. Stormy, what you think of the entrances? Both guys. All right. Was it a bit too much? Do you want some old school? Just walk down to the aisle, or do you love this stuff, man?
Well, it was interesting to see.
And I'm sorry, and the excuse too. I want to know your thoughts about that too. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, it was interesting when Fury came out to Crazy, right? I looked at my wife and started laughing because my wife is really big on karaoke, and that's a very popular karaoke song. So I knew what I was hearing when he came out because I've been around the karaoke's with my wife and everything. But it was so funny to me because I was like, it's fitting for Fury because he is as about as nutty as they come, right? He is. And when I saw that they had him, carrying him in on a throne and everything, all Amazon women, by the way, don't forget that little note. They were supposed to be Amazon like women, okay? And I'm looking at this and I'm like, this guy is really serious tonight because when you have these type of ring introductions, first of all, you have to have that confidence behind yourself to pull it off. But he's coming in with a crown, a king's robe, and on a throne and everything. He's actually sending a message and he's setting the tone for the fight. I found that very interesting because it was you remember when he did the Apollo Creed thing, everybody was like, boo, it's like, get out of here with that foolishness. But this right here sent a different type of message. And I was very mindful of it. And then when Deontay came out with his, I noticed, like Mr. Boxing Today said, coming up the corridor and them having the famous photos of the black historical figures and everything. I thought that was pretty cool. I did not like that the red undertones with his black costume because it made it more demonic to me some reason. But if it was just black, I would have been cool. But that red in there just made it sinister. But both men, kudos to them for their intros because it was really something that was breathtaking to the audience. And as Mr. Boxing Today said as well, I love the one that he came in with Ortiz, that white and gold. That was sharp. I talked about that when I did my post-fight show for the Ortiz and Wilder fight. I just thought it looked like royalty, But as far as the music choice, Deontay's his artist that he had walking him in, I thought that was pretty cool. The whole Black History theme and everything, that was awesome. Now, as far as him talking about that, how much the costume weighed and everything, in hindsight being, maybe that was too much or whatever. I had remarked about him pacing back and forth in the locker room. I don't know why he was doing that. It could easily be attributed to nervous energy and things like that, where Fury actually took his time. He relaxed and he sat down, he watched the fights, and he was totally relaxed. Deontay was on edge, and I didn't like that because as the champion going into his 11th title defense, he should have been more mindful of things like that. And Fury never even walked to the ring. He was carried through the audience. So he expended absolutely not one iota of energy outside of standing up and holding his arms up in the air and stuff like in your photograph there. All of these things, they're very simple and subtle, but they mean a great deal. If Deontay fights again, whoever he fights, he should keep it as basic as possible. He should come in there with an Everlast hooded robe and black or white striped trunks, Everlast, whatever custom glove he have to match for color, and get in there and get about his business. Forget about the theatrics, forget about the musics and all of that. Just go in there. I remember Mike Tyson at the height of what he was doing. Sometimes he wouldn't even play music. It would be when he came out, like when he fought Michael Spinks, there was just this weird hum, over the speakers, just like a like that. And he was walking to the ring. It made it more sinister. And it made it like, oh, damn, this guy, he's come. He ain't even playing music. You understand? He's ready to get it on. If he wants to send that type of message, he should keep it as basic as possible. Leave the excuses at home. Go in there and do what you got to do. That's what I have to say about that.
Haplotype liked the Hamed flying carpet. And look, am I the only guy that just likes old school, like just walk out with your robe, white towel, okay, the half cut t-shirt, or whatever, okay? Am I the only guy? Like, I just, you know what I mean? It's just me
I'm with
because
you on that, D Styles.
yeah,
I really I really wish that we could get some of the fighters to buy into being more old school. Just go out there with those simple trunks on. Forget about all that razzle dazzle, because the razzle dazzle is laying with you on the canvas. You understand? You should be focused on the opponent. As long as you're wearing the proper attire, that's all that matters, man. You,
yeah,
Yeah, I don't mind it. It's just,
it's like,
if you
go
can
ahead.
pull it off, that's on you. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, I know it's different sports, but like Deion Sanders, the way he used to perform out there. If you can pull it off, you can pull it off. Now it's not gonna look all that great if you go through all these theatrics and fireworks and jumping through hoops with fire and all that type of thing. You go out there and get your ass whooped.
like
But it's
shadow boxing while the flames say AJ on them, like in England.
right, man. So, if you can pull it off, you can pull it off, man. I don't mind it. The Klitschko's, people kind of forget about the Klitschko's ring entrances. Like that one for Vladimir and Hay, that one was crazy, man. I don't know if y'all remember that one. Remember when they had to walk through the tunnel and they had like George Foreman and all the past heavyweights? Man, it was crazy, man. That was probably one of the best I've seen. The
Yeah, that
Vladimir and
was.
Hay.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I just want an old school entrance. You know what I mean? Like, let's just get. And the ironic part is that not any. I don't like it anymore. I think it sucks now. But I was a wrestling fan. But I just think that I just think it's a bit much. Maybe if not everyone was doing it, but it just feels like everyone is doing it now for the big fights, and I don't know. But that's me, man. I don't know. But as far as Wilder playing homage, Black History Month and all that, I thought that was nice. But they could have done that without the outfit. Like, you know what I mean? Is my point. Like, he could have just walked, robe and stuff, and But hey, here's my thoughts on the outfit excuse. How could you not though? Like, no one in the camp, Wilder included, like stopped and said, okay, that shit's too heavy, like 45 pounds. You want me to wear 45 pounds in the dressing room and walk all the way to the ring, enter the ring with it on, right? I mean, think about, I didn't count it, but think about how many minutes that is and how much, I just doesn't make sense to me. But I don't like the fact that he's mentioning it. Like, even if this is true, I don't think he should have said anything about it, is what I think. I think they should just let it go. If you know that that's a factor in the fight, keep it to yourself. As long as you know, hey, when the third fight comes along, and if it's true, then let Tyson Fury have a rude awakening. You know what I mean? There's just no reason to mention it. You know what I mean? If you want to take the trilogy, if you beat him in the trilogy, then you could say it. I don't want to say anything, but I was affected by the, or whatever. I don't know, but I just didn't like that whatsoever. Let's get to this fight breakdown, man. Mr. Boxing Today 2, break down how you saw this fight from the opening bell.
All right, before I get to that, one more thing I will say about Wilder and the costume thing.
Yeah.
I do think it's one of those things where it's like, hey, man, say that for the book. You know what I mean? When you're done, save that for your book. But I will say he also has brought up things that hindered him going into fights that he had spectacular knockouts in as well. So because I remember for the Ortiz thing, he was saying that he had was he sick or something going into that? The areola. He didn't have to say anything about areola because we've seen it on his arm. So he has went into fights with things hindering him. So him saying something about this doesn't necessarily surprise me that he said something about something that hindered him, but to use it as an excuse as to why your legs were going, I'm just not buying that one. All right. But as far as the fight, though, so, man, he comes in at 231. Okay. Now, I've been saying, and I probably think I'm wrong, man, but I've been saying that I think Wilder should be fighting between 225 and 230. I've been saying it since his whole time, even before the title reign, even like the Malik Scott fight. Because I've seen him have success during the title reign, though, fighting Spilka at 220, whatever he was, 228, 226. Because that 209, 213 and stuff like that, I always thought that was too light for him. I'm pretty much thinking, man, maybe he should fight at that weight. Maybe 230 was too much. But with that said, though, round one started, man. I thought that round was probably debatable. You could possibly give it to Wilder, but rather than that round, he came out first of all right away, and you brought this up, D-Style. You said it just like this. Literally, Fury ran high knees across the ring to Deontay Wilder. Right then and there, I said, "Damn, this dude's he's not bullshit, man. He wasn't just saying he's going to rough Deontay Wilder up and take the fight to him." So he does that. Wilder immediately backs up, tries to jab. So I'm looking at that. Fury, from the last fight to this fight, the punches he was throwing no type of filler punches. There was no, triple jabs and two of the jabs he's not even trying to really land. It was none of that. Everything he threw it to count, and he threw it to hurt Deontay Wilder. That's one thing that I noticed. He was very economical with his punches. He was not throwing a whole bunch of filler, shoe shine, Olympic style type things. He was throwing to hurt Deontay. And he was mixing in the feints, and he kept that pressure on Wilder. Now, when you think of pressure, people think of Joe Frazier. No, there's that there's that front foot step to you pressure and just touch you, step to you, touch you, step to you, touch. He kept that type of pressure, and that type of pressure, it may not be the physicality that's getting to you, but it may just be like mental pressure was making you think, and you're probably overhauled with all this thinking you're trying to do. And Wilder, I think he had trouble dealing with that, man. He just abandoned his jab. He threw it a little bit. He threw a little stabbing jab to body, but not enough. He did it here and there, and then he'll throw a jab, throw another jab, and then he'll look for the right hand. He did throw a right-handed whistle. It looked like Fury rolled with it, though. Even Fury kind of, when he rolled with it, kind of looked at Wilder like, "Ooh, you almost got me there." And then Wilder tried it again and again, and then it's like and then it just like went to where he would just did the whole thing, just winding up with a touch jab, and then here comes the right hand, touch jab, and here comes the right hand. And he does that thing where he lifts his front foot off the ground to, get all that momentum into it, like he did against Brazil, where he lifted his front foot slightly off the ground and followed through with the right hand. But Fury pretty much just ate that, man. He just ate it, and he was rolling with the right hands. It did happen. Then he just put Wilder on the back foot, and not on the back foot to where Wilder still had space to where he can operate like against Stavern. He put him on the back foot to where he pressed him against the ropes, putting him in the headlock, punching during the break. A lot of old school. Some people say it was dirty. Man, it's just old school tactics, man. Bernard Hopkins used to do it. All the great fighters had some type of old school dirty tactic that they used to do. All right. Wilder wasn't used to that. When he said that he's going to have Junior Fa in his camp and he was going to have Malik Scott, when I first thought of those names, I said, man, that's great because they're good. They're big, good back foot type of guys, like to move. Wrong sparring partners. This is why I always say have some of everything in your camp, because you never know how that fighter is going to show up on fight night, despite how he's fought in his last 30 fights or 25 fights. You never know. And Tyson Fury brought back the Tyson Fury with hair. He fought like how he fought McDermott and Furtha, who they both fought. He kind of fought, or the fight he had with Steve Cunningham, and he kind of did some of that stuff against Otto Wallen as well, where he pressed up against Wilder, took his legs away from him. Wilder got his legs taken by getting put in headlocks, getting thrown around, getting flung around. He was ragdolling Deontay Wilder, man. That body shot, then there were shots that Fury was landing where it was just moving Wilder's body. When Wilder got up from that knockdown in the third, when he got hit with that clubbing shot, Fury landed another right hand. It kind of just literally turned Wilder sideways. The body shot that knocked down Wilder, you could say it was balanced. It just pretty much just moved him. I mean, it almost like Tyson Fury he just turned into like Big George Foreman, man, like out of nowhere. And Wilder couldn't get out the way of jabs. He couldn't get out the way of when he was in the clinch, he was just getting muscled around. I started to see Wilder complain when he first got knocked down in the third round. He got up and the first thing he did was complain that it was in the back of the head. And I'm just like, man, he's, Wilder mind, he's just not even focused no more. And another thing that Fury took away that I noticed, man, is Wilder does this thing where when the ref breaks Wilder and his opponent, Wilder is great at this. He'll automatically step right back in and throw a jab 1-2. He does it automatically. Fury he stymied that. He walked behind the ref. Roy Jones brought this up in the telecast one time. When a ref breaks me, I always walk behind the ref to make my opponent have to come back after me, circle back after me and walk into something. And it's like Fury knew that was coming, and he stymied it every time. He either moved back or he circled away towards Bayless. It was just a dismantling, man. I mean, I'm gonna let Stormy go ahead and cook because I know we're gonna keep talking, man. But it was just a dismantling, man. It's really not. I mean, his legs went in the third round. As far as the stoppage, I thought it was a good stoppage. His ear started bleeding. I don't get mad at Breland from throwing in that towel, man. I think Breland looked at it like, look, man, I'm not a doc. I don't know that you only have they're saying that it was just a cut inside the ear. But Breland didn't know if it was, if he's bleeding, if like his brain is bleeding. I mean, he just didn't know, man. That looks scary. And I know Wilder said, don't stop the fight. I know they talked about this beforehand that, hey, it don't matter what it looks like in the ring, just don't stop it no matter what. That's hard to say when somebody genuinely loves you. Now, he's not there for the check, man. The man seen blood rushing out of your ear, man. And even when I was watching, I'm like, damn, is he like, what the hell is going on? I thought his ear was I thought he like cut his ear on the outside. I thought it was about to fall off or something. And you really didn't know. So it's hard to tell somebody don't stop something when blood is rushing out your ear. Your right hand is pretty much no avail, is not doing anything. And the ones that do land, Fury's taking it and coming forward. You know what I mean? So the jab wasn't working. He just abandoned the jab. And I know what Wilder was thinking. Hey, man, I'm still on my feet. I still can throw punches. If I can just land one right hand, I can make something happen and turn it around. That right hand wasn't going to come. Fury tired his arms and shoulders out with all the mauling and wrestling. But I'm just leave it at that because I'm long-winded as hell.
I mean, that was a perfectly executed breakdown. And you guys are tuning in to the February 24th edition of Aftermath. I'm being joined by Mr. Boxing Today and Stormy B, man. On the description box of this video, you will see links to both their channels. Click on those links and subscribe if you like what you hear from the gentleman. By the way, throw a jab at the damn like button. Make sure that shit turns blue. Stormy B, man, give us a breakdown of how you saw the fight, man.
Well, I just from the beginning of the first round, when the bell rang, I noticed that Fury darted out right at Wilder, and surprisingly, Wilder's response was he was taken aback. He wasn't ready for this. The man had told him exactly what he was going to do. And Deontay, and I've said this about some fighters in the past, and I've also stated that I don't like when this transpires. Deontay was fighting from behind. That's never a good thing, especially if you're the champion. If you find yourself fighting from behind, it is your corner's duty to turn that around immediately, because nothing but bad things follow from that. It's usually the impression of the person who is the favored fighter who puts the opponent in that position. And as the champion of the world, he was supposed to be bringing out a message that I'm going to show you why you are not the champ. And that didn't happen. Fury fought like the champ. And I noticed it right away. And even when Deontay tagged him with that right hand in the first round on the side of his temple, he was reaching with that shot. Fury was already in retreat mode because he saw it coming. But it still landed at a distance because he was pulling away. And ironically, in the post-fight in the dressing room, when he gave an interview, he remarked how that shot even hurt him, even though he was pulling away from it. And it's the shot that left the bruise on the side of his temple. And I'm like, imagine if Deontay had stepped into that shot when Fury was throwing those feints at him. You see what I'm saying? Because when you're punching at him where he knows he can see that coming and it's coming back, when he's doing them feints at you, if you let it go, then you're going to hit him solidly because he's ducking in, with the feint. But I saw something in this fight, and a lot of, I tell you from time to time, I'll say things that are unpopular and that people don't really want to hear. Deontay, of which he's been one-dimensional a lot. That doesn't mean he's a one-dimensional fighter. He has made one-dimensional choices in his matches, and he has given people an opportunity, like Fury, to see what he's doing as a creature of habit and they sit back and they devise a way, okay, this is what I'm going to do. The second thing that I noticed is that Fury brought into the fight the mindset from the 12th round when he was able to get up and finish that fight. He realized getting knocked down by Deontay Wilder is not so bad because I got up. You understand? And I finished the round, and I actually took the fight to him, and it wasn't a bad thing when I took the fight to him. So going into this fight, he must have really realized that with his intelligence and ring smarts, that he could think a little bit faster than Deontay could under pressure. And so he decided to put the pressure on Deontay. The only thing that I would have liked to see Deontay do coming into this prepared that he didn't show us was that the positioning of his gloves in the guard that he would hold, it was too laxed because he was supposed to be ready to fire shots that are much shorter because this man was going to crowd him. And he wasn't prepared to do that. The other thing was he was backing straight up with his chin up in the air, and Fury was able to even catch him at the end with those shots. And he was particularly angling him so he would be near the ropes where he could get out and not escape. When the natural thing is to do is to give an angle. You turn left or right to get out. You just a pivot, and you can change the entire angle of things. He didn't keep the fight in the center of the ring, where Tyson would be forced to do something in front of him instead of crowding him near ropes and stuff where he could lay his weight on him and things like that. This was a tactical decision that Fury made as a gamble because he didn't realize that by doing these things, he could exploit the weaknesses that Deontay had. Well, they're not necessarily, they were weaknesses in the fight, but they were bad habits because he was accustomed to knocking guys out. This is boxing. And so he didn't make the adjustments Fury did. And it was very unfortunate that his answer for coming and avoiding those rights was either to pull back or to lean down, where he got caught in the back of the head. That knocked his equilibrium off, possibly did something to his eardrum, but we know the blood came from the ear, and the blood rushing down in the ear as well can affect your balance. All of that was, you're behind. And when the balance went, he absolutely had no chance at that juncture because he could not stand on steady ground. And even if he wanted to plant and fire, he wasn't going to get much on it or whatever, because it's just like a person that has vertigo. You cannot sustain that. Then the man was holding him and pulling his head down, putting his hand under his armpit, choking him, doing all kinds of things, roughhouse tactics. And there was no retaliation by Deontay. The ref did end up taking a point, but what I would have liked to see was just maybe one huge Alabama hammer below the belt. That would have made Fury back up for a moment and say, hey, whoa, this guy ain't playing with me. But that didn't happen. And I couldn't hear any instruction because the camera's in the corner. Again, the audio, you're not able to hear much of what's being said on Deontay's corner, but they were mic'd up in Fury's corner. You could hear some of the things. I didn't like that. But there was obviously a situation where he was fighting from behind, from the very first bell. Now, yeah, the trouble started in the second round, but where was Jay Diaz with his infinite wisdom to tell him, you got to turn this shit around right away? I didn't see that. I didn't get a feel for that or anything. But you're the heavyweight champion of the world. You got to go out here and stick your fist down this guy's throat. You got to do some things. I don't care if you throw him on the floor. You got to do something to let him know to stop this. It didn't happen. And then at the end of things, to see them get upset with Breland for throwing the towel in and everything because the champ was in bad shape. Okay. They really made themselves look like an inferior corner, even though they had some very good experience in that corner. And it didn't maximize for Deontay's advantage, because you're going to have nights where things don't go your way, but you can still pull out a victory. You can still compete. And I just felt like they were going from a deficit, they're going from behind. And as the champion of the world, you have to turn that around immediately. And that did not happen. Fury's momentum gained and gained and gained, and they rolled him over. And I didn't like seeing that. And I thought that there was so many more things that the champ could have done, but it was the corner that weren't up to par there. And they didn't, because I'm certain you talk to Deontay in a certain way in this corner. I know he runs and conducts things his own way. But if you get him to focus that same type of mindset and energy and anger on that opponent across the ring, that guy has real danger to face because he can knock your head off. They didn't do that. They didn't push his buttons. It was insane to sit there and watch this, because this is for all the marbles. This meant something. This had a significance. Excuse my language. They introduced that dude last like he was the world champ. He should have been mad about that alone. He should have been going across there, running across that ring and busting that guy in his mouth because they introduced him as the champ of the world before it went down. I could go on, but I will leave it at that. But I just felt like the champ in so many other fights I've watched fighters, he was fighting from a deficit from the opening bell, and I didn't like it at all.
Well said, Stormy. A lot to talk about in regards to the fight. A couple things. Fury hit Wilder literally on the ear around one or two times before the knockdown with a shot in the ear. I know there was reports about it was the blood coming out. Just FYI, I still hear people saying a busted eardrum, but the equilibrium to me is obviously was off given the balance the lack of balance that Wilder had there. I mean, he had no balance in that fight, but that blood was from a cut and they had to put stitches and stuff. But man, all you got to do is hit yourself in the ear and ask yourself, what if a 275-pound, bear like Tyson Fury punched me full force right there several times? It's gonna, it's gonna mess up your balance, man. What happened here, Wilder was ambushed from the start. He did not expect that. All right. And like AJ said earlier, it's like those soccer games where they score 2-3 goals on you early and it's over. Just like that. Like, what? That's it. It's over. All right. The momentum was shifting. And then think about how early it happened in the fight. Fury had enough time to keep pressing the action. He was, landing the body shots as well. Overall, masterclass performance by Tyson Fury. He put it all together. He did what he said he was going to do, and he deserves full credit for that. Despite what some channels out there are saying, that no one's giving Tyson Fury his credit. I don't know what you guys are talking about. I hear nothing but credit for Tyson Fury, and rightfully so. Look, I like the way he, like Mr. Boxing today mentioned, and he just ran straight to the center of the ring, knees high, just ran straight at him and brought the fight to him. Okay, and it's like he was almost eager to show it. And notice that's the moment he started using the energy. Stormy talked about it. Look at his entrance. Dude didn't even walk to the ring, bro. Okay, he was carrying his shit over to the ring. I mean, it just he was calm before the storm. One guy wasn't. All right. And Tyson Fury, I never make out about those things, what a guy's doing in the dressing room and stuff like that, and how they look at it the weigh-in, or anything like that personally. But I probably should for heavyweight boxing, man, because this shit's crazy. All right. With that said, I want to share this link from Lennox Lewis here. Right. Lennox Lewis said the legacy of Emmanuel Stewart and Kronk is clear and present with Tyson Fury's win last night. Big up to Sugar Hill and the Kronk family. In my opinion, this was a big win for Kronk Jim. All right. A lot of people thought, myself included. Yes, myself included. I thought Tyson Fury was crazy for dropping his current trainer and going with another trainer for his rematch with Deontay Wilder. I was obviously wrong. What are your thoughts on this tweet right here, Mr. Boxing Today too? And just in general, do you think this is a big win for Kronk, Jim?
Yes, I do, man. And it's good to see them Kronk t-shirts, man. Manny Stewart left a great legacy, and he has some disciples out there like his nephew. And you also got James Ali Bashir, who I was going to bring up a little later on with our discussion. But it was good to see those Kronk t-shirts in that corner, man. Just brings back memories. But we know how Emmanuel Stewart, style-wise, how he wants his big guys to fight. Use that jab, sit down on those right hands, try to hurt your man. We're not out there to just pepper guys and move around the ring. That's not the teachings out there. You know what I mean? It's use that jab, land that right hand, come back with that left hook, hold on the inside. If you're a bigger guy, use your weight, push your weight. I mean, it was perfect. It was a perfect Lennox Lewis type performance. When Lewis will come out there and go right after his guy. And another thing that I want to add, man, just to the style breakdown of the fight that I noticed, Tyson Fury was doing a good job of nullifying Wilder's right hand with his left hand. With the jab, when he started mixing in left hooks, it was almost like he was telling Wilder, look, you're not going to use your right hand tonight to throw at me. You're going to use that to defend yourself. I'm going to occupy your right hand with my offense. You know what I mean? And I think it just had Wilder off. And then Wilder with his low left hand, his jab, you're right in line, especially with a guy with an 85-inch reach, you're right in line to get hit because you're not guarding yourself. And Wilder, another thing that he does, as soon as there's an ambush, he puts his guards up. And that's what you're supposed to, but he'll put his guard up and he'll stand straight up. And it almost like Wilder bites down on his mouthpiece and say, you know what, I'm going to bite down and I'm going to just take the brunt of the punches. It's like he kind of wills his way through the ambush. But Tyson Fury is an accurate puncher and he knows how to punch around the guard, through the guard. He's not just welling away. He's placing shots. But I agree with Lennox Lewis, man. It was a good win for Kronk. And like I said, it was good to see those T-shirts in that corner, man. Just, kind of reminiscent of Emmanuel Stewart.
Yeah. Did you kind of see things that Fury did that were Kronk-like in that ring?
Yeah, sitting down and coming forward, but not coming forward saying, hey, here's my chin, but using the jab and making the jab count, not just a flicking jab. Yes, you want to throw your guy off sometimes with using different variations of your jab, but he was really trying to hurt Wilder with the jab. Hurt him with the jab. I seen sitting down on right hands. I seen the a la Lennox Lewis, Vladimir Klitschko, lean my body on top of you, put you in a chokehold, ragdoll you a little bit. I seen a lot of it last night, man.
So, Stormy B-Man.
Saturday night. Saturday.
Definitely. It's all good. Or it feels like last night, actually. But Stormy B-Man, what are your thoughts, man, on Lennox Lewis tweeting this and Tyson Fury, hiring the Kronk basically to, battle Wilder in the rematch?
Well, the tweet, it speaks volumes about, where Lennox has an affinity, as far as his legacy and what he gives the respect for what he's been able to accomplish in his career. Manny made Lewis the champion that he became. Mr. Boxing Today said something a moment ago about Wilder putting his guard up a little bit and like gritting his teeth and everything. That's what I was indicating when I was talking about my breakdown and Fury running over and attacking him and how he didn't have his guard positioned correctly, because that whole thing of holding your hands out in front of your face and holding your gloves up like that or whatever, that is about pure amateurish stuff right there. But what I haven't seen Deontay do is put those gloves up near his chin and roll his shoulders and get ready to throw short shots. And that's what I was indicating when I was giving my breakdown earlier. And Mr. Boxing Today brought it back to me of how significance of what I was saying, my idea of trying to express that, how significant that is. Because when your hands are close to your body, and you're fighting in close, you can get the shots off. But when you have them extended like what Deontay has gotten accustomed to doing on a regular basis, someone who knows how to fight can diminish that and take that away from you. As he just said about occupying his right hand. You can't occupy my right hand if my right hand is in proper position and my chin is tucked and I'm ready for action. You understand? Because you don't know where my punches are coming from. But the posture that he takes, typically, you can tell where his punches are coming from. When is the last time that Deontay threw a short check hook? Or when is the last time that he's thrown a short counter that's like 6 inches, where you in with a guy and you wait for him to do something and you wham, you step in with it and turn your body where he don't see no body movement. It's just a shift of the shoulders that looks as common as your shoulders shifting and moving when you're in there when nothing is being thrown. This is boxing, and this is boxing technique. So where is that? I know he knows how to do it because he's done it before. But again, you get into this mode of all I need to do is just wait around until I can launch this bomb. Okay. But if they don't give you that time to launch that bomb, you got to go to a different situation. And so when you talk about the whole, rough housing and things like that, that's what you do to tire out the opponent when you're not busy putting hands on them. You see? And that's a part of boxing. Nobody has really done that to Wilder in a long time, because a lot of people spend the time being on the outside away from him, but nobody's thought about crowding him and getting up in there and doing those kind of things to him. Because I'll tell you something, it speaks to his character as about, as a fighter. He's a good guy. Okay, he's a good guy, and good guys get smashed up in there. Ask Tyrell Biggs when he fought Mike Tyson, huh? Ask Evander Holyfield when he fought Michael Dokes. Okay, you learn, you get a little, you say, oh, this guy's being dirty. He not only threw a right hand, he missed it and followed through with his elbow in my mouth. Those kind of things. Deontay went to school Saturday night, but I hope he learned. I hope he came out with some type of degree, because if he didn't, he's just going to have some problems again going forward in the future. This happens in boxing. It is nothing wrong with going through this and even suffering a loss behind it. But damn it, you sure better improve and come back and show us that you learned something from this. I remember there's a video out there on YouTube somewhere from a few years ago before Deontay even became world champ. He's standing in a parking lot and Lennox Lewis is trying to show him how to throw the jab the way he did to keep himself safe by shortly extending the left and making sure that your fist is like shoulder high and keeping your right hand right in front of your chin. Lennox was trying to show him in a parking lot. They were in street clothes. It was nighttime. Deontay couldn't get it. He was showing them to him, you do it like this, you do it like this. And Deontay was trying to imitate and mimic it, but he couldn't get it down. And I'm like, wow, you can't, you're the same height, reach, whatever this guy, you can't do that simple thing. Dude, you need to get your butt in the gym. That's what I said years ago when I saw that. And here it is, you were getting free knowledge. But again, kudos to this man, the champ. He went back to his roots because Emmanuel had worked with him in the past. And he showed that he picked up those pointers and he brought them that night. And it helped him to victory. Deontay has got work to do.
Can I add this to the discussion? It almost, and I'm actually watching it now because I heard Stormy say he didn't really see nobody ever pressure Wilder, and I was like, nah, Duba did, but I pull it up and actually watch it. If you guys watch this, man, it's almost like Tyson Fury did this, what Duba did, just at a much higher level. Because you remember in this fight, he swelled up both of Deontay's eyes. Now, I'm not saying Duba was Tyson Fury, but I just think if you go and watch it right now, pull it up fresh, he's actually doing what Duba is doing, just at a higher level. and he's 6'9", you know, with all his attributes. But so I want to say nobody's ever pressured him because I think Duopa was doing it. Wilder was able just to, you know, work through it and was able to stop Duopa late. But Fury kind of utilized what Duopa was doing, man. Body shots, pressing him, throwing overhands, jabbing him backwards, getting you know, pressing the action at times.
Wilder knocked him out, right?
He stopped him on his feet, but yeah, it was a stoppage.
Yeah. It's to quote Dwyer, you know, look, knockouts give people amnesia, Mr. Boston, today. So people forget sometimes when something was working if they ultimately get knocked out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's why people just didn't really remember that. But it's interesting because I don't remember his eyes being swollen.
Guys, go look. It's in the third round, and I'm listening to you guys. But look, if you go watch this fight, you can be like, "Damn, that's kind of how what Fury was doing, just at a much higher level."
Yeah.
Even more the reason why Deontay was supposed to learn from the experience. You know, Mr. Boxing Today, you and I, we had a talk about Tyson a little bit when we had our show. But one thing I like to call into remembrance about Tyson when he got out of prison, he never seemed to recall that he was once the undisputed champion of the world. He never fought like that again. He never had that edge on his shoulder. I'm the damn champ. He never brought that when he came out of prison. All the fights that he had after that, he seemed to be a guy so far removed from being a champion. And if you notice how Tyson Fury behaved, he always behaved like he's still a champ.
True.
That's one thing you can't take away from him.
To add to that story, I've actually heard Mike, and now it's years, decades removed now. But if you listen to Mike talk, he will always says that guy. When he refers to that late 80s Tyson, him himself always says that guy. And I'm like, no, bro, that's you. Like, what do you mean that guy? Now I can understand you saying it, but even back in those 90s interviews, I'm not that guy. So it was almost like he removed himself from that terror from the late 80s. You know what I mean? It's like Buster like beat it out of him almost. That's just what I get from it.
Yeah, man. Tyson Fury, I have to say this, okay? I never get his fights right, bro. Like, I never predict Tyson Fury, like his big fights. I'm always, not only am I wrong, I'm like way off, okay? Like, and the funny part is, I was confident every single time. I thought Fury was going to beat this dude's ass, bro. I got to be 100% honest. I thought Fury was going to beat him. I'm sorry, Vladimir Klitschko. I didn't see it. Like, you know what I mean? And look, I saw the Chisora fights. I knew the guy was skilled and all, but I was like, nah, he ain't ready for Klitschko. He beats Klitschko. And a lot of people talk about how the fight was boring and all that, but he ended a 10-year title reign. And in many ways, that helped spark a lot of what we have now. Like, people are talking about the heavyweight division. But so I was wrong about that fight. I had him losing by mid-round stoppage. Okay. Well, before I get to that, I thought he would never fight at a high level ever again. When I saw the photos and dude was doing cocaine and all that, I was one of the people that said, dude, win a championship. This dude ain't even going to fight at a high level ever again. I was wrong about that. Okay. Unfortunately, the receipts are out there. They're not good receipts, but it is what it is. It's the truth. The first Wilder fight, Wilder's going to knock this dude out mid-round. You watch. Didn't knock him out in the mid-rounds. You know what I mean? I was almost right in terms of the knockout. Okay. But, walk this way, walk that way. It is what it is. But I was wrong. Like, my assessment was wrong. Okay, about the fight overall. If you look at my breakdown, the fight went almost nothing. Like I said, it was going to go. This fight, again, I said third round knockout, bro. I said he's going to knock this. The opposite happened. He knocked Wilder down in the third. Not out, but that was pretty much the beginning of the end. There's something about this guy, man. Like sometimes he'll say something and he doesn't do it. Sometimes he says something and he does do it. I mean, holy shit! I never know when he's telling the truth. And you know who's like people like that. That reminds me of that poker players. I like to play poker. Okay, and the people that you never know they're fucking bluffing, right? Are the best poker players. They're the best at those head games, and that's what Tyson Fury reminds me of. I can never figure the guy out. Why do you think that is, Mr. Boxing Today? Why is D Style always wrong about this dude?
He's just unpredictable, man. Even the build up to this fight, and even the presser, I've seen a lot of people come to my page saying that Wilder got the best of him in the presser, and I was like, I mean, Wilder did have some good comeback, some little funny stuff, but I'm like, not really, because now Tyson Fury didn't turn it around where he's stoic, he's incognito, he's not really saying anything. He just kind of flipped the switch. Tyson Fury, and then when Wilder would try to be serious, Tyson Fury knows how to. He has well-placed comedy, goofy comedy, where he'll make it Wilder serious, and then he'll just be goofy. Then Wilder wants to be goofy, and I'm like, man, you letting Fury take the lead. And Fury has this thing about himself to add to the craziness to him. He'll embarrass himself just to embarrass you. It's just hard to just. He's like Dennis Rodman almost, man. Where it's like, damn, it looks beatable from the outside, but it is tough to beat Tyson Fury mentally, physically. He might come out and be an outboxer. He might come in and try to maul you to death. You don't know what you're going to get with Tyson Fury, and he's good at doing both of them, man. And then with all his goofiness, then you'll see him in a fight where he's like laughing, playing in blood. He's like, has the evil grin with blood going down his face. And,
I mean, who does that, bro?
And then he's laughing with knockdowns. It's like this dude. I mean, he is batshit crazy, man. He's laughing with knockdowns, laughing with blood. I mean, he literally dressed up like Batman at a press conference, man. Like, he's just unpredictable, man. He's one of the most unpredictable characters that I've seen watching boxing for over 30 years, man. He's just a very unpredictable dude that knows how to fight, though. That's the whole thing about it. And he's so unpredictable, D-Style. That's why I think you're not getting a lot of his fights correct. And I've got him wrong too. I thought Klitschko was going to beat him, although I did say I still got the prediction wrong. But I did say, just to put it out there, after that Jennings-Klitschko fight, I said, man, Klitschko's looking kind of haggard, man. Whoever he fights next, this is the right time to beat him. But I got the prediction.
It wasn't Klitschko's best performance.
Exactly. But that's pretty much it, though, D. I'm not sure if you guys can hear me still.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
You're frozen on my screen. now you
right, can you guys hear me now?
Yeah,
I can hear you.
I apologize, Mr. Box, today. I couldn't. It looks like my internet cut off for a couple seconds there, but I did hear the part about the reason you always get his shit wrong is because he's just unpredictable. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's unpredictable.
Yeah, but look, call me crazy, dude. Fury's gonna turn around and lose to some dude that nobody expects. You know what I mean? Because as Haplotype just asked, do you guys think Fury can maintain this level of commitment, or that he may slip into party mode again? We don't know. Like no one knows the answer to that question. It's nobody knows. Okay, I do apologize for the freezing there, guys. You guys are tuning in to the February 24th edition of Aftermath. I'm being joined by Mr. Boxy today and Stormy B-Man. Make sure you check the description box. Their links to the channels are there, so you can subscribe for more of their content.
Hey, leave it to Tyson Fury to dominate Vladimir Klitschko. Fight 19 rounds with Deontay Wilder and pretty much win, I don't know, probably about 14 of them. Dismantle Wilder in a rematch and then struggle with Otto Wallen. Leave it to Tyson Fury, man.
Well, that's what I was going to say about Fury is that the next guy to beat Fury is going to outbox him. And that's what it's going to come down to. You can't knock him out because he's just a little bit crazy enough to allow you to hit him and everything and want to taste what your power feels like and everything. And I think he has enough resolve because crazy people have a little extra strength. We don't acknowledge that a lot, but there's a reason why those folks that are institutionalized They're not given, you know, certain things that they could hit you with and stuff like that. It's like there's a reason for that. And this man is pretty much in that of that ilk. But when it comes down to boxing, what's favorable to him is his reach advantage and his height, which is tremendous in this sport. But what at the end of the day, it's going to take somebody who can really box. That's what if you were to ask me what he fears the most is a really good boxer. And he probably hasn't faced one yet. And I say that is because he's undefeated. And you know, knockout guys and stuff like that, they're the last. You probably want to put them at the last that who would come away with a victory for him. And
Well,
that speaks more about the talent at the top of the sport as far as being a good boxer than it does, you know, that it's not there than it does about what's there.
right.
So you have to think of it in that way.
Yeah, man. We're gonna go to this here, which kind of touches on that kind of what is next, you know, right now. Trilogy or undisputed, meaning, you know, should Fury fight AJ or Wilder? Now, when I did this, you know, news reports have already come out that Wilder's going to exercise his rematch clause for the trilogy. So more than likely, it looks like that's the road we're going. Okay, but you know, Hearn came out and he said, you know, no need for a trilogy. Let's just go right at it, and you know, let's go for undisputed and stuff like that. But if you had a choice, what would you rather see, Mr. Boxing Today, trilogy or undisputed? And what's going on with Dillian White, by the way, feuding with his own promoter right now?
Well, first, let me say this, man. Undisputed is the motivation. I've been saying that quote for the last 10 years here on YouTube. We haven't had an undisputed champion since 1999. Okay, so I would love to see an undisputed fight. As far as a rematch, I don't really think an immediate rematch is warranted. We pretty much seen what we need to see. And like I said, in my opinion, they fought. Now, I had the first fight a draw. I had it a draw. I had Fury winning 7 rounds. I had him pretty much winning all these rounds. You can probably debate the first. So what is that? 14 out of 19 rounds that he's won. They both shared 2 knockdowns. He stopped Wilder. I mean, I really don't see, you know, why we needed an immediate rematch. I would love to see undisputed first. So that's where I will go with that as far as what Fury should be doing as far as the rematch. Now, Wilder, his mental makeup, just listen to him talk, the fights he takes, his mental makeup is that of, I need my get back. He just comes across like that type of athlete. Now, just because that's your mental makeup doesn't necessarily mean it's the right decision to make either, though, bro. You know what I mean? So, but I think that's who Wilder is. Like, I want my get back. I need that lick back. I want it right away. So I can understand that. I wanted the first fight because it was controversial. Who doesn't want an immediate rematch after controversy? But this one right here, I really don't see it. Wilder has major adjustments to make. This isn't just, okay, if I could just land the right hand, it didn't work. So there's major adjustments he needs to make to beat a guy like Fury. He might not be able to ever to beat Tyson Fury. Deontay Wilder may be able to go on a 5 fight win streak against the top guys, not named Tyson Fury. I just think Fury has his number, man. I really do. And as far as Dillian White, it's ironic, right? Now Eddie Hearn wants undisputed. Now he wants undisputed. Eddie Hearn, man, we've been one undisputed since 2016 when your guy won the world title, man. Don't try to make it. And then he's going to say, because the fans want it. Right, Eddie Hearn. We wanted the last 4 years, man. So stop playing, you know, stop with the shenanigans. And right now, it's funny the way he's using Dillian White. Now he's saying there's obligations now he's saying there's now the obligations don't mean anything. When it was trying to make the Wilder fight, it was obligations and mandatory. Now he's kind of sidestepping these obligations that AJ needs to fulfill. But I think he's using Dillian White as, all right, I want AJ versus Fury because it's a huge fight. It's huge. All right. Just in case if my guy loses, come on, Dillian, let's come in here and see what you can do. You know what I mean? So I think he's kind of using Dillian as like a pawn, man. And Dillian's been getting treated like this pretty much forever. So now I'm curious to see will Dillian White stay, not just on Twitter for one day. I mean, literally stay on this campaign that guys are ducking you. So now it's Fury's turn. So we'll see if Dillian White will go on that Fury's ducking me. And will he stay on Eddie Hearn's head? But you know what? Dillian White had a chance when he had a sit down with ESPN and PBC when he came over here. He had an opportunity to take control of his own career, man. But it's almost like he's a gluttony to pain from Eddie Hearn or something, because he always runs back to him, man. And so that's Dillian White's problem, man. Dillian White had an opportunity to get to the WBC a lot quicker. I don't want to waste time going over that whole thing. For his title shot, I mean, a lot quicker, but he chose to fight other guys. When they told him to fight Ortiz in Brazil, he chose to fight Parker and my man Oscar Rivas. Good fights, but not the road that they were telling you to take to get there. So Dillian is going to have to just deal with Eddie Hearn himself. But it seems like he's a gluttony to pain from Eddie Hearn, in my opinion.
Yeah, that was funny because Eddie Hearn tweeted, no trilogy needed. Let's do Undisputed. And the first person, guys, literally the first person that responded, not some troll, not a Wilder fan, Fury fan. No. It was Dillian White. He's the first response. Okay, saying, well, what about me and my obligations? All this shit. I don't think Eddie Hearn cares, bro.
He doesn't.
So that's that. What about you, Stormy? Trilogy or Undisputed against Joshua?
Well, I'm gonna bring it back to this, what you said earlier, D-Style, about Mr. Poker. If you listen to what he said he really has no interest in those belts that are on the other side. He said he's had them before, been there, done that. He's like, he was really chasing the belt that he just snatched off of Deontay, and he's happy with that. And I would pretty much believe him in that, because he has never liked AJ at all. And he's like been disrespectful of him and saying certain things. And I don't think he feels that AJ is a challenge for him. Wilder represented a different story, because first of all, everybody else was afraid of Wilder. And he was crazy enough, as he told Wilder at the press conference of their first fight, I want to feel the power. Hit me with the power. That's what he was saying. And we found out that, shoot, he wasn't lying in that either. He wanted to feel it, and he felt it. And then after feeling it, he's like, okay, I've done that. Now I'm going to come and get you. I'm going to knock you out. It's amazing. But this may be the first time in at least the history of the heavyweights that we had a guy so far off his rocker, but was equally as good a fighter too. You understand that? Like I said, it's going to take a heck of a boxer to beat this man. It's not going to be a knockout king, because he can gauge power. If he felt that you could really get him out of there, do you think that he would went after Deontay the way he did? He saw the exploits of Deontay and was able to pick that apart. And in a rematch, if Deontay doesn't do some other things that are technically proficient, you can see the same thing happen. And understand when I say technically proficient, because that has been the knock on him, that everybody is like to say that we're his detractors. But I'm not saying it as a detractor. I'm saying it as a person who recognizes what he's going to have to bring to beat this fighter. He's not going to just be able to go in there and ball his fist up and knock Tyson Fury out. He's not going to be able to do that. The guy brings too much. But I do believe that AJ doesn't represent, especially since AJ is no longer undefeated. You see, had he been undefeated still, that might have been a bit of a challenge. I want to take his O away. But that's gone now. And don't forget this last tidbit on that about AJ. Against Ruiz, the way he won the title back was not awe-inspiring at all. He basically played keep away and hit and run, fight another day, and all of that foolishness. And Tyson definitely doesn't respect that.
So are you saying, because I mean, I understand, but Fury didn't beat Klitschko in the most exciting way either, but that was uninspiring too. But it got the job done. Are you saying that it's not necessary for him to fight AJ?
No, not at all. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that he said out of his own mouth that
Right.
he feels that that's no challenge for him, and he's had those belts already. AJ went around collecting them all out off the ground after they were stripped from him. So it's like he doesn't see him as some type of formidable opponent. And I would have to agree.
Hey guys, what do you think about this, man? And it was actually my wife that actually brought this up. But now I know he came in out of shape his last fight, but I also think another thing that could get Tyson Fury in trouble when he loses or when that happens or when it ever happens is his stubbornness. Yes, he is crazy, but his stubbornness. And what I mean by that is, let's say he was to fight Andy Ruiz, and this is what I wanted to bring up. What if he went in there? Because Tyson Fury is crazy enough to, if he's crazy enough to say, you know what, I'm going to engage Deontay Wilder. I'm going to taste the power, everything that he did, and he went there and did it. I think he's crazy enough and stubborn enough to say, you know what, AJ, I'm going to show you how to fight this little man on the inside. I still think that if somebody tries to fight Ruiz on the inside, man, I'm going to, from this crop I see right now, I'm still favoring Ruiz over anybody on the inside. Now, I know there's some things that Fury can do, wrap him up with his long arms, try to control, but dude, Andy Ruiz has a strong set of legs, and it's not just easy to move him around like that. Also, he can match Tyson Fury with the whole, I've been fighting since I was a kid. That's all just like that's all Tyson Fury knows. It's all Andy knows. And I know his discipline wasn't intact going into the rematch, but just besides that little skimmage. Now, look, Tyson Fury's dedication wasn't intact also as well. Now, he didn't lose a fight for it, but he took a 3-year hiatus for a reason. You know what I mean? So, or a 2, 3, whatever. He set out for a while for a reason. You know what I mean? So he's not always there. He gained damn near, 400 pounds he weighed. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
Well,
Andy Ruiz is a guy, man.
Mr. Boxing, let me say this to what you were just posing. That's what separates Fury from Ruiz. Fury is the type of guy, he'll get off the sofa and whoop somebody's behind. Okay. Andy Ruiz has some talent and ability, but the same reason he lost his titles are the same reason that like Tyson can come back and win titles. I think you've actually answered your question yourself by posing it, because if you look at the difference in the talent, okay, Andy has talent. Fury's talent is probably off the charts. And at the end of the day, the type of person that Fury is, it gives no, he has these levels that I spoke about earlier about, like Navarrete, when I said he could raise his level in fighting and he can go to another. Fury actually has that. I think that the reason that you saw what D-Style mentioned, the lackluster performance against Klitschko, was because Klitschko didn't offer any more. If Klitschko offered more, you would have seen more from Tyson. I actually believe that, because of how I've been able to assess what he's doing. You know that old saying, crazy like a fox? That's this man. And you have to be able to take care of yourself if you're in there with him. He's shown that. And people can not like it, they can put it down, they can ridicule it or whatever. But until somebody beats him, it's going to be what it is. And Andy Ruiz is definitely not the guy, because he can actually fight a number of ways, and all of them don't look good for Andy.
Man, I will say that aside from fighting on the inside, I do agree. If he's crazy enough to try and get on the inside, Andy will use those shorter arms to his advantage and has faster hands than Fury. So, but aside from that, I've always said actually that Fury is probably the worst matchup out of AJ Wilder and Fury at the time. I always said that Fury was the worst matchup. I want to get to this here in the last 15 minutes. You guys are tuning in, by the way, at the February 24th edition of Aftermath. Make sure you subscribe to Mr. Boxing Today and Stormy B-Man. The links to the channels are in the description box of this video. And jab the like button. Make sure it does turn blue. All right. I see the comments, guys. I'm posting them on the screen as we go. Shout out to BNB Boxing, Mr. Tiptoe, A-Rod. Almost feel like the setup that they want to dispute all of a sudden and leave the belts in the UK. I mean, right now, the UK, you know what's funny, man? When Andy Ruiz won the fight, bro, like all the belts were, in the US. Even though Andy ethnically represents being Mexican, but he was from the U.S. Wilder, from the U.S. And then all of a sudden the U.K. just in 2 fights has all the belts now. Very interesting. But what can well, actually, before I go do that, I want to see the trilogy. Why not? You know what I mean? AJ has to deal with Pulev. I think he's gonna pull that one out unless Pulev pulls out of that fight, but that's a different story. I want to see a trilogy, and the reason is because we already know that Wilder is capable of hurting Tyson Fury. We already know this. He's dropped him twice. He didn't drop him the last time they fought. But even, man, I'm questioning whether or not Fury could win. And I'm sorry, Wilder, but I think he deserves a shot. I mean, he had a long title reign, and if anyone deserves a rematch, in this case, a trilogy, it's him. But I'm not against Undisputed either. You know what I mean? Like I think him and Fury Joshua will be a big fight, and I actually think Joshua has a pretty good shot at beating Fury. I would favor Fury in that fight for the first time. I'll be favoring Fury in something, but I do think Joshua. I do give him credit, man. He is a skill fighter. You know what I mean? I know he lost, to Andy Ruiz the first time. I think he did just fine in the second fight. He did what he had to do to beat an opponent like Andy Ruiz. He's a top 3 heavyweight easy in the world, and it's a fight that I believe the fans would like to see. What can Wilder do to adjust in a third fight if it were to happen? Mr. Boxing Today, is there anything he can do, in your opinion, to beat this 275-pound bear in the ring?
Well, you hit the nail on the head. He's shown that he can hurt him, put him down viciously in the 12th round. So that is there. And if there's anybody, Deontay Wilder is the epitome of saying somebody has a puncher's chance. But jab some more, then jab again, and then throw 5 more jabs. Use the jab, man. Utilize it. Triple jabs, doubling jabs, sidestep jab, the up jab. Just work the jab. I mean, go watch some Larry Holmes, where Holmes would literally, and Lennox and Ali, where they would literally win rounds by just jabbing. Even if, and not even just the all-time great guys, but like a guy like Carl the Truth Williams. Just go and study how to just utilize that jab, man. And Wilder can do it, and he has a good hard jab. I know he busted Fury's nose in the first fight with the jab. Sometimes he doesn't commit, and he kind of throws like I'm just touching you because you're in his range. It's kind of like a rangefinder to throw the right hand. But it's so predictable sometimes, man, where it's like, here comes the touch jab in the right hand. It's just too predictable. So have some type of sparring, and then also you're going to have to work on the inside fighting, man. If that's just bringing more sparring partners in, you can have a day where you can just go 10 rounds, just all in fighting, different things like that. In fighting, using his jab, different type of sparring, probably some situational. And look, he's probably doing a lot of these things, but if he is, then do more of it. And even with all that said, he still might not be able to beat Tyson Fury, man. But those are the things that I really look at, and then just try to roll and duck under punches instead of trying to pull back every single time, especially with a guy like Fury, because I think Wilder had the false awareness that he was out of range. Because usually when Wilder leans back and he has that wide stance, he's usually out of the way of a Stavern. He's usually out of the way of somebody with shorter arms and short reach. But you're right in range for a guy like Tyson Fury. You're right in range for him, man, because he has that long reach. But that's my opinion on that, man. And I'm not sure we're going to cover this, but people, I know they're saying that he got rid of Breland. Are we going to touch on that, or? Yeah. Okay, so all right, yeah. So that's pretty much, I think, with his adjustments, man. That's my and then that stand. I know he's used to having a wide stance.
Well, just. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I know he's used to having a wide stance, and I guess it's kind of funny for me to say shorten up the stance so you can turn your hips, because he usually does turn his hips, but it's when his stance isn't as wide, because sometimes he kind of just plants his feet and he's in quicksand, especially with a guy that's moving in quick on him or circling him and moving around the way Fury did in that first fight. But as far as trainers, man, if he's trying to bring somebody new in, my 2 votes, I know people say Derek James and all these. Look, my 2 votes would be James Ali Bashir, who's a Kronk guy, or Stacey McKinley, who has worked with Shannon Briggs, Mike Tyson, Povetkin. He's a heavyweight trainer. You know what I mean? He used to be down there at the heavyweight factory down in Florida. I know he's training Trevor Bryan right now, who's a heavyweight, supposed to be fighting Manuel Char. He's a heavyweight guy. To me, I think you should get a heavyweight guy and bring him in and teach you how to fight, like give you some pointers of the heavyweights that they've trained in the past.
Well, talk to us about what you, because I do just kind of segue us, because we're still going to, it's kind of all tied together. The alleged, I don't know if it's official yet, but the alleged firing of Breland, and what do you think these guys, like Ali Bashir, what do you think they would bring for Wilder in this rematch with Fury?
They would bring experience. Now, Breland was tall for his weight class, so he was trying to show Wilder some things. He's been there since day one, and he's got him this far. So whatever he was telling him, along with Wilder's outrageous power, got him this far. But guys like McKinley and Bashir, in my opinion, Bashir, he's from the Kronk, so he knows all about the Kronk style. He was there with Emmanuel training Vladimir Klitschko all those years. So how to use that jab, how to set up the right hand, not just with a touch jab or just with a blinding jab, but how to work the jab. Work the jab to the point where your opponent may damn near just forget about your right hand momentarily because he's trying to get out the way of the jab. I think that Bashir can help him with that Kronk style, that setting up punch with his jabs, knowing how to fight on the inside, knowing how to apply underhooks. When he was on the inside with Fury, he wasn't trying to do no underhooks as far as tying Fury's arms up and kind of digressing some of the physicality on the inside. And Stacey McKinley, he just knows how to train big guys. He just, a lot of the old McKinley, after AJ lost to Ruiz, he had a lot of pointers that he was pointing out and that things that AJ wasn't using. And I would like to hear Stacey McKinley talk about it, but just his experience with heavyweights is just phenomenal, man. When I see him train or give pointers in the gym, he's always stressing to use that jab. If you're tall, fight tall. You know what I mean? And put punches together. Not just fighting straight, just a typical jab, straight right hand. I mean, add some uppercuts, know how to turn the hips, have a tighter guard. I think McKinley can help him with all of that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That sounds like something that would definitely help Wilder and make him a better fighter for sure. Stormy, what are your thoughts, man? What can Wilder do to adjust if they do a trilogy here against Tyson Fury?
Along with, and salute to Mr. Boxing Today, because it's 2 choices of coaches. I cannot argue against that at all, because one, like he said, has that direct relationship with the Kronk and understands that. And he may even be able to provide Deontay with some counter stuff immediately to what Fury brought to him in this rematch. That's outstanding right there as a consideration. Stacey McKinley, also, again, a man who has worked with a vast array of heavyweights. But regardless of whomever he brings in as a coach, he has to bring in, I shouldn't say has to, but I would love to see him bring in a person as an advisor and counsel, the former heavyweight champion of the world, Larry Holmes. Because Larry Holmes fought well into an older age, and these young guys couldn't do anything to him. The only person that really did something to him was Mike Tyson. And he had a rough outing against Oliver McCall, but Oliver McCall was like a black version of Tyson Fury. He was a little bit nutty, okay? But Larry could teach Deontay the nuances of how that left jab. By having one hand, you can beat anybody. He did it. And I think that Larry, having an experienced as he does to be able to, they don't need, he doesn't even have to like be in the gym with him every day. They need to go somewhere and sit down and have coffee or whatever and talk, because he could pass on a college experience worth of knowledge to him. Okay. 30 jabs around, he wins around. 30 jabs around. And that's not just out there pumping, 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 pumping. No, it's an array of jabs. They're offensive jabs, they're defensive jabs, they're ward off jabs, they're jabs to provide distance, they're jabs to put a person in position of where you want them to be. There's a number of ways, and I'm certain Mr. Boxing Today knows what I'm talking about. And a person like Larry was extremely versed in that. And Larry could box. Hide that right hand. Keep that chin tucked. Even though you're a 6'7" guy, tuck the damn chin. Keep it right inside that shoulder of yours, that left shoulder. Okay? And keep that right hand right in front of your chin, where you can slip it off to the side, catch a punch that's coming at it, parry it, catch and shoot, counter. You understand? All of these things, because he's not doing those things. But they're there. He has the attributes. He has the speed of hand and foot. There's no reason why he shouldn't have been doing this the entire time. It's nothing new. It's just things that he had not implemented, and they did not stress it under the Breedlin camp and DS camps. But he needs that now. He needs to bring a new wrinkle, because doing the same shit, you're going to get the same result. And this is very important. But like I said, a man with his power, I've seen him use that power, and he can knock somebody out with his left hand. He can knock somebody out with his left jab. He's that good. But they need to bring it out of him, and he needs to stop this damn ego and humble himself and understand there is room for improvement. You ain't going to go around here knocking everybody out, because eventually you're going to get put in a position to be knocked out yourself. And we just saw it happen. It didn't even have to go down that way. Pumping that jab at least 30 times around, you win the round with your agility, your athleticism, your hand speed. Stick that jab out there. An array of jabs. Jabs to the head, jabs to the chest, jabs to the pit of the stomach. Feint the jab. When have we last seen Deontay do that? Feint his jab. Feint and come back and follow up with a double or triple. We haven't seen those things, but he's more than capable of doing. Should not have lost his title. But like I said, falling in love with knocking a person out with a single type punch, that made the difference. And so now he's without his title. But that's what I think about that.
Now, let me do this really quick. First of all, thanks everyone who joined us. We're just going to talk about one more thing. I want Mr. Boxing Today to go first. I'm not sure how much time he's got. He gave us a good. We'll go 5 minutes over time, so we're good. I just want your guys' thoughts on this, okay? Two-part question. One, do you agree with Mark Breland throwing in the towel? And two, what do you think about, just in general, do you agree with Wilder getting rid of him if it's because of that? Now, not so much if it's because he wants to do a switch up on trainer, but if he's firing him because, hey, how dare you throw in the towel? I don't want to, I don't want the fight to be stopped. Just what are your overall thoughts on that, Mr. Boxing Today?
Well, I know fighters like to say I want to go out on my shield, and that sounds excellent, man. But when, like I said earlier, when you're in the corner with somebody and you've been there since day one and you love them like a son or like a nephew or like a brother, whatever it is, it's hard. Now, I know after the fact, oh, it was just a cut inside the ear. Look, man, when you're seeing blood rush out of somebody's head, and these are the creme de la creme of heavyweights, he's in there with somebody that's damn near 300 pounds. The first thing that comes to your mind is, man, is it bleeding on the brain? You're not sure. And you're seeing your man getting all just everything just pulled out of him physically. The right hand's not doing anything. He has no legs. He can't even stand up, let alone land some damn right hand everything's going to land. He can't even stand up to deliver punches properly. Whenever Fury's body touches him, he's like getting right. I mean, he just got dominated, man. So, and I understand that Wilder, I read the article, Wilder said he already had this talk with his team that no matter how it looks, do not stop the fight. I want to go out on my shield. I guess he made this pact with them. And that's great pact, man. But in the heat of the moment, when you're visually seeing that, it's not like you were just getting outboxed and he's trying to throw in the towel because, dude, you had blood running out your ear, man. Out, literally leaking out of your ear. Nobody know what the hell was going on. You might have bleeding on the brain. So I'm thinking Mark Breland, with his experience, kind of says, you know what, man, I need to throw this towel in. I was fine with the stoppage. And let me also add this. I read an article in Boxer saying that Wilder said, and this is Wilder's words, that one of the Darrell brothers, I forget which one of the Darrell brothers was yelling, throw in the towel. And Wilder believes that maybe Breland was listening to Darrell. Darrell's a Kronk fighter. And Wilder has something to say about that. I think Wilder's probably looking too much into it, bro. You've never, at least I've never seen, look, there are things that happen in sparring. But as far as on fight night, I've never seen you. It wasn't about the knockdowns. It wasn't about getting outboxed. It's about blood rushing out of your ear and you have no legs and you look like a totally different fighter early in the fight. Not late in the fight, but early in the fight. Now, maybe Wilder may look at that as, hey, it was early in the fight. I could land one more. I'm fine with that stoppage based on what was going on, man. Blood leaking out your ear. You really had, come on, man. Let's face it. He was going to get knocked out. But if Wilder wants to go out on this shield and, do the Manny Pacquiao against Marquez thing, hey, fair enough, man. But I'm cool with Mark Breland stopping that fight. Based on what I was seeing, I'm cool with it.
Stormy, your thoughts?
I had remarked in talking in the conversation behind the scenes that I'm always for the health and welfare of fighters. First and foremost, the way that man was bleeding out of his ear, they should have stopped that fight. He could get angry all he want and everything, but you don't know, as Mr. Boxing alluded to, you don't know if that's subcranial hemorrhaging from the inside or whatever. They could say there was a cut on the ear, but there's a lot of that going down into his ear cavity as well. He's already had a balance problem. You can see that it's clear as day. And we need to get him, in a position where, hey, they were talking Trilogy to begin with, right? So Fury gets this one with the man going to have himself checked out medically and physically, and he come back and he already got a beam on what Fury was doing, so he knows he can get prepared to handle that going in for this third fight. But the whole thing about having a contractual agreement that you won't stop a fight and all that, what the hell he think he is, Apollo Creed or something? This is not a Rocky movie, man. This is ridiculous. You said you got into the boxing business because you wanted to take care of this beautiful little girl you have. Now you have several beautiful little children and a fiance. What are you talking about? You're a shield. You're their shield. Okay. And what purpose does it serve you in a grave? Huh? And they left without you. I'm looking out for the welfare of the fighter. And hey, they say when this one look good, trouble like that, you 30 plus years old. You ain't 25. You understand? You don't bounce back from shots to the head that land a certain kind of way or whatever. You have to look at the long picture. You haven't taken much punishment in your career. We're not going to let you go out on a shield. We're going to let you go out with dignity. Okay? Angelo Dundee had to stop the fight for Ali against Larry Holmes. He was being beaten to a pulp. And he says, I'm the chief second. I stopped the fight. Everybody's asking Ali, you want to go back out? Wait, Angelo. Hey, Ali, do you still want to fight? The ref is asking, Ali, you okay? You want to go back out? Ali ain't going to say, I quit. Angelo had to say, I'm stopping the fight. And he probably should have stopped it a couple of rounds before that. And the thing about it is, at a different time. We didn't have social media where people can just type behind a computer or a board or whatever and put just any type of comment out in the air. People respected Angelo for stopping that fight. Ali was, like I said, being beaten to a pulp. We don't want to see Deontay beaten to a pulp. Deontay hasn't beaten other men to pulps. He's knocked them clean out. But would you want to see Deontay with his punching power punching a guy like Ray Mercer punched Tommy Morrison? I don't think so. He could kill somebody. And they get in there and they risk their lives, yes, for our entertainment. But they don't have to go to the extent of their lives when the corner man can make a judgment call. The things that happen behind the scenes where a guy leaves the ring and goes into a coma and stuff like that, that is not something that you can foresee happening. One punch too early stopped instead of one punch too late. Whatever happened to that adage? You see? So if you want to get rid of Mr. Breland for caring about you, maybe you ought to reconsider what you're doing. Because we often hear people are just in it for the money, huh? So if that's what you want, which I think Mr. Diaz is about, good luck with that. And just remember the color thing that you're looking at here. Is he just riding your back because you're a dollar to him? Or do he really care about you? If you want to think that Breland was stopping the fight because someone with a Kronk affiliation had influenced him, don't forget Mr. Breland came up in the Kronk his damn self. And you had him working for you all these years. Are you serious? All I have to say left to this is this. If you cannot give people the understanding of looking at you and what you're doing with compassion, then maybe you're in the wrong business altogether. Because the fact that they stopped it meant that they cared for you. Okay? And that's what you want at the end of the day. You want someone to look out after you. Many of us, and Deontay should know this better than anybody. He's being from Alabama. When your parents get old and they can't take care for themselves, what you do? You step up and you take care of them. Huh? When they can't wipe themselves or wash themselves anymore, you take care of them. This man took care of you on your worst night in front of millions of people. He gave you what God gives, mercy. Don't forget, you talk about God all the time. That's all I got to say.
And then, I just want to add this, man. Wilder, to me, is just one of them type of athletes. You got to save him from himself. He's just, and that's a good thing. That shows the heart. That shows the determination. That shows the, hey, man, I'm going to fight till there's nothing left. And that's great. And it sounds great. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's the right thing. And with this whole pack thing, look, man, and just to add to Stormy, could you imagine Breland explaining, I forgot his fiance's name, but Miss Wilder, we had a pact, see, and that's why we didn't. Come on, man. She ain't going to try to hear that. When that blood was coming out, man, even I was sitting there like, yo, they might need to stop this. So that's all I got to say, man. You got to save a guy like Wilder. He's like a Holyfield. He's with that type of mentality as far as that goes. You got to save him from himself. And that's nothing to be ashamed of, man. There's nothing to be ashamed of.
Nothing to be ashamed of. Wilder actually landed like the last shot, like right before they separated him. And that's when a towel flew. I agree, man. Look, sometimes doing the right thing, you have to be willing to lose a friendship to save a friend. A real friend will do that. They're willing to lose their friendship with you if they're a real friend. In other words, they're not yes men. They don't tell you what you want to hear. They'll give you the real opinion, whether you like it or you're not, whether it pisses you off, whatever the case is. In this case, I mean, he's close to Wilder. He knows Wilder the best. And all of us could sit here and we could all say, you know what? I think Wilder still had a shot. I think, like, we all know Wilder has that one quitter hitter, all that. We all know that. You don't think Mark really knows that? You don't think he knew that for round after round? You don't think he reached the point where he said he might get a knockout by landing a big one-quitter hitter, or he dies? Yeah, I think he made the right decision. Right, Mr. Boxing Today, any final thoughts before we wrap this one up?
No, that's pretty much it, man. I appreciate being on. Had been a while, man. Been rocking with you for over 10 years, man. So it's been a while. It was a great, exciting fight. It opened up this new decade of heavyweight boxing. Um, Tyson Fury put on an excellent performance. We will see what Deontay Wilder will do from here, man. I personally think I don't want to see the trilogy right away. I would like to see him in there with somebody that's a pressure fighter, maybe like a Konaki, maybe an Andrew Wees, somebody like that, man. But we will see what Wilder plans to do. And me being a Wilder fan, I will root for him. But I think letting go of Mark Breland, man, I'm not really in agreement with that. And just because something's written down on, and we already touched on, but just because something's written down on paper and it was a pad and it was a pinky swear and all that, man, he's looking out for the best interests of you, man. You know what I mean? So, but hey, it's Deontay Wilder's career. Let him do what he wants.
Stormy, final thoughts?
Oh man, thanks for having me on again this evening, and it's great to be on with brother Mr. Boxing Today. We were just on yesterday, so it's a reunion already. It's fast. I love that. This was a great show and a great discussion, man. And for anybody out there that thinks that I have something against Wilder, you could never be more wrong. He means more to me for what he has stood for and represented outside of the ring, and how he has embraced and walked as a champion amongst the people, as a true people's champion. It cannot be measured how I feel about that. The fact that I speak passionately about what has transpired in the ring between the ropes is because, as I said, first and foremost, I care about all fighters' welfare. It doesn't mean just a fighter who I love and support or whatever, but it's the entire sport. And when we get enough people who have that same type of feeling for these athletes who put their lives at risk and on the line, maybe better care and concern can be taken for these fighters. That's what it is at the end of the day. Okay, we understand that it's a macho sport. We understand that it's done with bravado and people stepping out there with their alpha male exhibited and on display. But at the same time, nobody wants to see someone that can't return home to their family as they left. And until we get to the nature of that and understand it, some people are going to be victimized. These guys are already victimized in the risk that they take, and they don't get compensated enough for what they do. So please don't get it misconstrued how I feel about it. And I'm always talking about fighters taking better care of themselves. Have anyone out there ever heard me talk about the guys who carry their hands too low and the guys who don't know how to slip and move their head and get their head off center line? As a coach, I'm always talking about these things. It's nothing new. And now that we've seen it where it's been brought to light that our champ needs to shore up some things as far as what he does out there, hey, just get in line and get in the gym and get better. That's all you got to do. Make me wrong. You understand? But it's a process, and everybody understands that. But again, thank you for having me. I appreciate being on with you, brothers, and I can't wait for the next time. So I just want to say peace. Good night to you guys.
Right, Big Dog Willie, I appreciate that $2 super chat. When you're that competitive, you're that hard headed. Well, they made the decision for him, and I think it's the right decision. I want to leave with this last note. Okay, look, Deontay Wilder represents his people. Okay, a lot of black people are very proud of Deontay Wilder. Do not in any way, shape, or form feel don't listen to the idiots telling you that to not support Deontay Wilder. I'll be damned if anybody tells me not to support a Mexican fighter. Okay, all those Mexican fans that support Julio Cesar Chavez all those years, all the Filipino fans that supported Manny Pacquiao, I think they would be damned if someone told them, no, don't support okay, someone who looks like you or that represents you. To anyone who has a problem with that, I have one word for you, or two words actually. Fuck you. Okay? This is D-Style Boxing. Make sure you throw a jab at the like button. And we're out. Peace.
Peace.
Actually, hold on. Wait. This is D-Style Boxing. What do we say?
Keep it boxing.
Keep it boxing.
That's